Yeah, natural dome, loud. Everyone knows the deal down there Sunday night. Yeah, you got to prepare for it, and naturally, yeah, it's part of the aspects of this game. So you got to recognize it and hopefully prepare for it.
Is there anything in particular you did for it?
Obviously, you got to deal with silent counts and crowd noise and nonverbal communication. I think we've done a good job. I think all week of just kind of preparing that way, and so I don't think hopefully nothing surprises us in any way.
You like to tell us at times you're just 31 years old, so maybe you don't get the Spinal Tap reference, but you turn it up to 11 with the noise inside there.
Yes. JG, I think, he maxed that sucker out the last couple of days, so it's been impressive.
Jason said one of the points he made to you when you became the coordinator and play caller was to get the play called quickly, be decisive in that regard.
Yeah.
Is that something you've become accustomed to doing on a regular basis now?
Yeah. I think just giving us time so we can get to the line, we can be, we talk about tempo all the time. Tempo doesn't necessarily mean no huddle and all the college stuff that everyone probably thinks of the word tempo. It's getting in and out of the huddle, getting the personnel in there quickly, getting the play in there quickly so that hopefully when we get to the line, Dak has enough time to do any sort of communication we can, and we're not stuck up against the last few seconds of the play clock.
You and Dak have both talked to us about how quickly you are getting in the plays. Did you do anything to prepare to get that so quickly and have that anticipation?
Naturally, obviously, preseason was important for me. Go through that aspect. Camp, I think it was a good opportunity for us. We did a lot of call it type scenarios where we don't have a script. We kind of just force ourselves to call them on the fly, and so it kind of puts you in those situations. So I've been fortunate to go through that process, and then hopefully preparing throughout the week that you kind of can anticipate what you're going to call in all the situations.
You ever get in a situation where you quickly call a play and then kind of have regrets about it, and what do you do?
Yeah, that happens. Quite a handful of times every game, and so those are going to happen. And you kind of look at it, in a way you're evaluating or grading yourself, and maybe. Coach Garrett and myself will talk about a scenario here and there that, hey, I didn't like the way we went through in that drive, or didn't like that call, and we can talk about it and hopefully correct it.
Last season, the offense struggled, obviously, while playing away with the noise and everything. You already won against the Redskins, but how are you targeting this game against the Saints?
Yeah, this one, obviously, it's one of the more challenging environments in the NFL. Everyone kind of recognizes that, and that's part of the challenge and the fun of it. And so hopefully we've prepared the right way, and so we're ready for it.
How challenging are the pass rushers the next 2 weeks?
Yeah. Obviously, this week, honing in on this week, they're really talented. Certainly playing at home, crowd noise, all that sort of stuff, that can be huge advantages for them. So, hopefully, we can manage it well.
What do you know about Randall before he got here, and what have you learned, maybe more about him, that maybe he can do different things than you maybe thought?
I was in Detroit for a few years. It seemed like Randall made so many big plays in Green Bay over the years. People in Dallas obviously felt that as well, even before I got here. And so, he's just a really smart player. I think the more you're around him, you always sense that, watching him from afar. But as soon as you get him in here, all the things he can do, and he's such a quick learner that sometimes you put him in a situation he hasn't been in before, and it just kind of seems like natural to him, and he just rolls with it, and it's been really beneficial for us.
I know Drew obviously is not playing, but do you feel the pressure sometimes when you're going against a Sean Payton offense to match that?
Naturally, games have different flows, and certainly they have the history and the talent and the offense to score a lot of points. And hopefully, you don't get consumed with that you're trying to, get too aggressive or out of your own, routine and offense and whatnot. But certainly these guys got a lot of firepower on the other side, and so they got a chance to score some points as well.
Do you have to guard against that at all? I mean, the assumption that they're going to be aggressive and try to throw something at you early. How does that factor in when you're putting together what you do to not overreact to that?
Yeah, you recognize there's so many different aspects that can happen in the game. You kind of prepare for it. Obviously, things adjust, things change. You got to make tweaks throughout the game, and that's kind of the fun of this whole thing.
What's impressed you the most about the way Dak's played these first 3 games?
I think just his conviction and his command and conviction and how he's playing. He's letting that thing rip, and it's kind of maybe a silly way of saying it, but I mean I think there's something to it, that there's no hesitation in him. He's hitting the top of his drop, he's seeing it, and he's letting it rip, and he's very convicted and decisive in what he's doing.
He was talking after the game that he felt he was too greedy in the first half.
Yeah.
Is it tough to, and then obviously he changed around, how difficult is that to, in midstream, kind of flip a switch a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge, and I was probably calling it that way too at the same time. You kind of want these shots and these opportunities, and they're playing on top of everything, and it's for everyone. Sometimes, if they're going to play on top of it, everyone wants to hit the home run, but sometimes you got to keep taking some singles and doubles and all that stuff, and eventually over time, hopefully you get those opportunities down the line.
What do you think has worked so well in the improvement of the deep game this year?
Yeah, just time on task with those guys, spending time on it throughout the offseason. Obviously, really having the whole crew since April when we started. It's the guys that we've had here the whole time, and so I think guys feel really comfortable with each other.
People talk about the chemistry that Dak and Amari had pretty quickly in the rapport. How do you define chemistry? Do you even look at it that way, or is it just strictly about execution and trust? And how do you break it down?
Yeah, I think it's more execution and trust and working together and being on the same page and talking through things. Not everything's going to be perfect. We're going to go through practice and we're going to run a route and maybe Dak throws it behind him and we got to just talk about it. And so I think the more those guys talk about it, everyone talks about things, goes through this process, I think the better we're going to be on the back end.
That being said, do some players just kind of click sometimes?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe. Just the way they play, they got to, they recognize the body posture or something of someone running a route. They kind of get a feel for when they're breaking, how they're going to adjust on certain things. And so certainly those guys have found a way to quickly connect.
Kelly asked Marcus yesterday about the defense's success on third downs, and he said credit the offense that y'all aren't making them one-dimensional by getting ahead. How much do you pride yourself in being able to give the defense?
Yeah, certainly. It's a long season, a lot of different games. There's going to be times where defense is going to hopefully bail us out a little bit. Hopefully, maybe we can help them in some aspect. Special teams too. That's just the way games flow. And so, been fortunate. I think the defense done a good job and then gotten some favorable positions where, you always like it when they're in a passing situation. DeMarcus and all those guys are coming after him.
With Tony, has anything surprised you about the way he's run through the tackles and been a complete back, or was that kind of a misconception maybe coming out of this?
Yeah, I think misconception. If you watched him at the Senior Bowl, that was probably one of the best things that could have happened for him was, Memphis, they did some phenomenal, really cool stuff on offense. He played receiver a lot. He went to the Senior Bowl and he ran between the tackles, and I think that was huge evidence for him to show that he can do it in any way. He can play receiver, he can play running back, and I think we saw that and felt really comfortable with him.
How involved is Dak with you in developing the game plan and choosing the plays and so forth?
Yeah, we go through the whole process throughout the week, talk through it. At the end of the day, in a way, your sales pitching plays at the end of the day, he's got to be convicted on it as well. And so, that's part of the process. We talk through these things. Sometimes, sometimes I want him. That's kind of the challenge sometimes because he wants to say you love them all. It's sometimes like, Dak, no, you need to say no to 3 or 4 of these. Tell me you don't like these plays. And, because that's the way this thing rolls, and that's usually the best case scenario.
When you're within a game, are you calling plays on feel, or do you use mathematical, analytical data to drive it too?
Yeah, hopefully you use some of that sort of stuff through the preparation process, kind of recognize maybe our tendencies, maybe the defense tendencies where we're at, and then hopefully throughout the game, you've prepared in that way that you're ready for that and you can account for all those different adjustments.
You talked at the beginning about tempo. Is there a time where you want the guys out of the huddle? Like on the play clock, where any hard and fast?
I think as quickly as possible. Sometimes usually if you're 20 or above, obviously you feel pretty good about that thing. But as long as we have enough time to communicate up there, I think that's the big part.
Just being a student of the game, is there anything that you've admired or you've taken away or you've liked about that Sean Payton has done over the years in New Orleans?
Yeah, I'm unique because we actually ran their system for 1.5 years when I was up in Detroit because Joe Lombardi came up. So kind of got to learn the system from afar. We spent a whole off season. I was up there at Stafford and Orlowski, and we watched Drew Brees the entire off season. We said, can we stop watching this guy because he makes all these awesome throws. But obviously I've admired what they've done for a long time, and they're creative but also convicted in what they do, and so they've obviously been at the top of this league for a long time on offense.
Saints one of the faster defenses you've seen so far? I know you've only seen them on tape. I've never
Yeah. Certainly you recognize the speed. They got a lot of guys, and it starts with their front. Their backers are athletic guys who can trigger and make plays, and obviously their secondary's got a lot of guys that are younger with a lot of experience though, and they can fly around and make plays.
You obviously observed and kind of logged and categorized a lot of the offenses and schemes you've liked growing up and watching. Is there any way you can break it down into what influences you and how heavy the influence is, or have you taken from so many places?
Yeah, I think try and learn from everyone. Learn from all your stops, and then studying things. I mean, you're going to find little things that may be relevant for us throughout the season. You're going to watch other teams. You're going to be watching common opponents. Watching TV, and you find something, throw it in a file, and maybe there's a time and place for it.